All right, so we're diving deep today into a case that, I'll be honest, it's pretty tough. Starts with a discovery in Las Vegas, body of a 2-year-old, Jacoby Robinson Jr., found in a dumpster.
Yeah.
And I think what makes this case particularly interesting, aside from just the tragedy of it all, is we actually have a decent amount of source material to go through. We've got police documents, surveillance footage, even court records.
Right. We do.
So we can really try to piece together what happened.
Yeah, and we can look at how technology plays a role, a bigger and bigger role, frankly, in these kinds of investigations these days.
Absolutely. So let's just lay out the basic timeline here. Jacoby was reported missing June 7th, and his body was found the same day.
Right.
His parents, Deaja Smith, the mother, and Jacoby Robinson Sr., the father, both indicted on murder and child abuse charges.
Yeah.
But here's where things start to get a little bit murky, right? We have Smith's 911 call.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear a little bit of that
Sure.
from that call.
Okay.
So she's clearly distressed.
Yeah.
Right? Claims her son was abducted from a park. But then, as we said, his body is found very quickly in a dumpster. So as an expert, like when you hear that when you see that kind of discrepancy, missing child report, but then the body's found so quickly, what does that tell you? What are you thinking?
Well, right away, I mean, that's a huge red flag, right? Because the timeline it doesn't add up.
Right.
If a child was truly abducted, especially in a public place like a park, you'd expect a longer period before, any discovery.
Right, and I guess more of a widespread search.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
they're not going to just find the body right there.
Right.
So already that's making you think, okay, something's not right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, we have the body cam footage, right,
Mm-hmm.
from the officer who discovered Jacoby. And what's so powerful about this footage, and, we see this a lot now with body cam footage, is you get the raw emotion. You get that immediate reaction
Right. It's
from the officer.
It's unfiltered. It's that visceral response that you can't fake.
Right.
And for investigators, I mean, it provides crucial context because you can see the scene exactly as the officer encountered it.
And the officer's reaction can also be, valuable evidence.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. A seasoned officer, they've seen a lot, but even they can be shaken by certain discoveries. And that reaction, it speaks volumes.
Right. And then, of course, we've got surveillance footage. And this really adds another layer to the story. So we see footage of Smith pushing her 3 children in a stroller. And police believe at this point Jacoby may have already been deceased.
Wow.
And later, there's footage of her walking towards the dumpster, and a loud boom sound is heard.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that investigators do to try to make sure that they can connect the dots with that kind of footage?
Right. So it's not just about watching the video.
Right.
There's a whole science behind analyzing surveillance footage. So you've got things like timestamps, got to make sure that lines up perfectly. And then, you can enhance the video, zoom in, try to pick out any little details that might be relevant.
And sometimes even sounds, right? Like they can analyze the sound.
Absolutely, yeah. They can use software to isolate specific sounds, filter out background noise, and even compare it to other audio evidence. It's pretty amazing what they can do.
It's incredible. And it seems like it plays a really important role in a lot of these modern investigations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like having an extra set of eyes, sometimes even ears, on the scene.
And then we move on to the physical evidence. So photos reveal significant injuries to Jacoby's head, torso, and buttocks. And this contradicts Smith's claim, right?
Right.
That she never hit her son, said that he suffered a seizure the day before.
Hmm.
So, when we're talking about injuries like that, can medical examiners usually tell if an injury is consistent with a fall or a seizure or potential abuse?
Yeah, usually they can. It's not always cut and dry, but they're trained to look for certain patterns, like the location of the injuries, the severity, any signs of repeated trauma.
Right.
They'll also compare the injuries to the explanations given, to see if it all adds up.
And that's where things might start to fall apart for her, right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if the injuries don't match up with her story, that's a big problem for her.
And we know that Clark County's Department of Family Services had 3 previous contacts with this family.
Hmm.
So what does that typically entail? Like when we say contact, what are we talking about?
Well, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
Could be a welfare check, responding to a report of suspected abuse or neglect, or even just providing support services to the family. It really depends on the specific circumstances.
Right. So it's not necessarily like a full-blown investigation every time.
No, not necessarily.
But it's something, right?
Right. It's a touch point. It means that there was some level of concern or interaction with the family.
And it could be something that investigators look at, to try to figure out, okay, was there something missed here?
Exactly, yeah. They'd
Right.
want to understand the context of those contacts. What were the concerns?
Right.
Were any interventions put in place? Did the situation improve or get worse?
And then we have this letter that Smith sent to Robinson Sr. from jail.
Okay.
She expresses regret, particularly in one line. She says, "I wish I listened when I said no more whippings when you told me to stop whipping the kids."
Hmm.
So, obviously not a confession. But when you hear something like that, what are you thinking?
Well, it's certainly suggestive, isn't it? It
Yeah.
suggests that there was physical discipline happening in the home
Right.
and that Smith, at least at some point, was uncomfortable with the level of discipline being used.
Right. And whoopings, that implies a certain, it's not just a timeout.
Right, exactly. It implies a level of force that goes beyond, what most people would consider reasonable.
So both parents are currently in jail without bail, awaiting their next court appearance. We're left with a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
What exactly caused Jacoby's death?
Right.
What role did those previous family service contacts play? Could something have been done differently?
Right.
There's a lot to unpack.
It is. And it's a stark reminder of the complexities of child abuse cases. I mean, there's often a web of contributing factors, a history that needs to be carefully untangled. And it highlights the critical importance of early intervention and support for families who are struggling.
Yeah, and just for everyone listening, it's a good reminder that, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
If you suspect child abuse is happening, report it. You might be saving a child's life.
You really might be. Don't hesitate.
So this case, it's tragic, it's complex, and it leaves us with a lot to think about. Thank you so much for helping us break it all down.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's important to talk about these tough cases.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, stay informed, stay vigilant, and let's work together to protect our most vulnerable.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time.
See you then.